All in Stride is a piece I wrote about 10 years ago, and I wrote it in Lakefield at my home at the time. I just had purchased an S4 Yamaha piano, and it was a beautiful piano, and the action was just so much better than anything that I had played on before, and I couldn't believe how responsive it was. And so I think part of composing All in Stride was related to the ease at which I was playing this piano and it was responding to me. So I was able to do these fast runs. All in Stride came at that period of time, but I think too it was inspired by Oscar Peterson's playing. I really love his style and his playing. And I had been to see him in Stratford at a theater there. It was very inspiring to meet him. And actually, on our first Leahy album, we co-produced that album with a man named Lance Anderson, and Lance also worked with Oscar. So Oscar actually had some knowledge of our group, and he spoke about us having a mutual friend, which was really neat, and it was very good of him and humble, and he was very kind. And so we had a wonderful visit. It was such an honor. His playing is just so incredible and so inspiring, and you know, he has these really big hands, and he was moving across that keyboard with such fluidity and ease. You know, it's really intricate, but it's jazz that, you know, you can go on the journey and follow. And so I think those two elements together around the same time caused me to come out with All in Stride.
The composition of the piece is just really unique. It draws you in, so it's no wonder I would want to dance it because it's just so good. Honestly, I've just been dancing it for fun for the last how many years. This has been a piece of music I've had in my phone where if I need it, I'll just put it on, and it's just been like my day at the spa, I guess. You do your facial, you dance the tune, whatever, right?
Stride piano comes from ragtime piano, and it's this technique with the left hand where you're hitting a bass note and then you are coming up at least an octave to play a chord. And with stride rhythm, it was a little faster and wider jumps. In ragtime, it was slower tempos. And so All in Stride, I'm employing that technique with some of these faster rhythms in the right hand. So it was a totally an inspired moment, I think, in my piano playing life. Probably started piano before I was born because there was always someone playing the piano. Mom played piano, and all of my sisters played piano. Dad played a little bit of piano as well, and so I had heard so much piano by the time I was starting, which would have been 7 or 8. That would be my first introduction to it. But I actually started with classical training, and I didn't start playing what we are playing now, that style, until I was about the age of 14. Mom, she's from Cape Breton, and she had her own piano style coming from Cape Breton, which was not stride, but there was a lot more rhythm in the left hand and the right hand compared to what we were used to in Ontario. And Dad had such great appreciation for the instrument. He loved ragtime and, of course, loved her piano style, and that was new to him here in Ontario. But he also encouraged her to develop this stride technique in the left hand. What emerged was this sort of hybrid of this Cape Breton style of piano playing and ragtime technique, which became what we all learned, my sisters and myself, as far as our piano style relative to fiddle music in general. I actually didn't start playing ragtime until it was around the age of 14, and when we were in Germany, we were playing at a theme park there for 6 months. We had like 3 to 5 shows a day, and this gentleman who was working at the stage, he would sometimes play the piano. Matthias was his name, and he was an 18-year-old guy. So one day I walked in on him between shows. Nobody else is in the building, and it was one of those classic moments where there's just this guy's on the stage playing the piano. It's completely empty, and he finishes his piece. He's playing this great piece, and he finishes his piece, and then I am the solo person in the room clapping, and he's trying to figure out where this person and who this person is. So then I said, "What was that, Matthias? That was just fabulous." And he said, "Oh, that's a ragtime piece called the Maple Leaf Rag." And I said, "Oh, that was great." And so he said, "Would you like me to bring the music to you?" And I said, No, don't bother. I wouldn't be able to play that. And thank you, but that's, way beyond what I would be able to play at the time." Well, he brought the music anyway the next day. And I looked at it, and it was just, the pages were just plastered with notes. And again, it was like far beyond where I was at the time in terms of level. And I thought, that'll sit on a shelf at some point. But then curiosity got the best of me, and I thought, I'm just going to try one bar, one measure of this, see if I could just at least read it, because I could read. And so I took quite a bit of time and figured out the first measure. And then I said, okay, I'll try this second measure, and got through it. And after getting through the second one, I thought, okay, if I could do two, I can do the whole thing. So then I spent the next, would have been 3 months between shows on this piano. And Agnes as well, my sister Agnes, she was doing the same thing. Both of us, we were learning that piece and some other ragtime pieces as a result. So when we came home from that trip, it was basically a 360 in a sense. Having gone from being able to play very little, being able to read, but being able to play very little, to suddenly something that was quite intricate and still is rather challenging today in terms of playing it well. So, of course, that augmented what was already happening there in terms of this hybrid of this Cape Breton style and the ragtime rhythms in the right hand and the big chords, and the harmony was slightly different as well. We were at music camp one year. Emily, Denise's daughter, she came and she said, I've been working on this dance routine to All in Stride, and hey, why don't we do it? I didn't know at the time, but she was actually in her home dancing to this piece of music that I had written and recorded.
When I was in university, I called her up. She was with my cousin Anna. They were hanging out in Montreal, and I said, I need you to send me that. And she just had a recording, like a demo. And so I was dancing to that a lot. And then what was quite interesting is then I later saw the YouTube version of it with Siobheann. And so then Siobhann's bass started to influence how I heard certain rhythms. I would just honestly put that on for enjoyment, dancing, warm up. I continued to develop it, and then I went to University of Limerick. And while I was doing my master's there, I did develop more of a choreography to it. And then I performed that for one of my exams because I had to do an independent study in rhythm, and I used it as one of my performance pieces.
There are these particular lines in the right hand that are really fast, and I guess they'd be 30-second notes. And for traditional French Canadian step dancing, she was going, outside of certain boundaries.
Music in the piece is emotive. The style is different. It's not traditional. There's an edge, and so it naturally makes you want to move differently, and my rhythms are probably different. There are parts of that piece that are very intricate, and so I was listening at the time to a lot of jazz and watching a lot of tap dancers, so it was all just kind of leading me in that direction, I guess, at the time. From my time actually in Ireland, I've noticed a lot of similarities between the old style sean-nós dancing and some of the Canadian styles. And probably similar to Scottish dance traditions and Highland dancing and all that. There are so many similarities, obviously. So I feel like Ottawa Valley, it is open to new styles. It's open to tap. It's open to different things, right? It's in the competitions, you always were excited to see who was bringing what new step or rhythm, or it was a really dynamic environment to be in, that you were allowed to take chances and break a few rules. And all that jazz. So with that came my love of learning to dance rhythmically and not necessarily for the performance only. Which has totally influenced how I hear rhythm, how I write songs, the way I sing, and then the way I perform and feel comfortable on stage. I'm very rhythmically oriented, and it's the dancing that gave me that.
And so I started playing it, and she began to dance. This is before the actual concert. I was hearing every rhythm that was playing on the piano. She had figured it out and had mimicked it. And it was just stunning. So we said, of course, absolutely, let's do this at camp. Let's present this. And so we did. And that was the only performance that we ever did of this piano and step dancing together.
There's been years of anticipation of being able to do something concrete with this. When it became an option to do it for the project, it was like, of course, it's about time. So, and it was actually really interesting, 3 women jamming, you know, like it was just a really cool experience. But it was also like kind of wild. None of us completely knew what was going to happen. And actually the night of the performance, the energy was high. To be very fair, I don't have a routine to it. It's improvised. And that's probably where the traditional side of it comes into, because it's more about the feeling you're making between the 3 of you making this music than performing this piece. But although without Erin, like amazing solidity on that, it would all go, because Siobheann and I change things left, right, and center. But yeah, Erin is the leader.
Piano is such a versatile instrument. And I think that this experience would be shared by so many people, you know, around the world and in countries where pianos were accessible. I would say the piano is still that instrument that is ground zero for everyone.